Hi, my name is Barb Adrian. Today we'll be talking about the first setup option in Accounts Receivable, which is the Accounts Receivable Options. To navigate, go to Modules, Accounts Receivable, Setup, and Accounts Receivable Options. The Accounts Receivable Options has 6 different tabs: Main, Additional, Credit, Entry, Printing, and History. We will be going over all 6 tabs. The first tab is the Main tab. The first option on the Main tab is to select to have accounts receivable divisions. If you choose to have divisions, you can check the checkbox. If you choose not to use divisions, leave the checkbox blank. Divisions are used for reporting and default posting accounts. You can also attach a division to a specific general ledger segment and have it automatically post to the correct divisional account for sales and cost of goods sold. This is done by choosing the segment you wish to substitute to. In this demo company, I can choose department or location. If you choose not to use segment substitution, select None. In the portion of Post to General Ledger, if you choose to post to a cost of goods sold account while doing transactions in accounts receivable, check this checkbox. These 2 options, the Sales Journal in Detail and Cash Receipts Detail, are options that will allow you to post your transactions in detail to your general ledger account. If the checkboxes are unchecked, the transactions will summarize and the summary amount will post to your general ledger. The bottom portion on the Main tab, the Display portion, is how you want your invoices to display on the Invoice tab in Customer Maintenance. Your choices are Invoice Number, Ascending Invoice Date, and Descending Invoice Date. You also have the option to display invoices with a 0 balance. If this is unchecked, you will not see invoices with 0 balance on the Invoice tab in Customer Maintenance. On the right-hand side, in the Fiscal Period section on the Main tab, it will show you the current fiscal year and current period in which your Accounts Receivable module is sitting in. These numbers are incremented as you do period end and should not be changed manually. The Sales Tax Reporting checkbox, if this is checked, that means that you would like to calculate and track sales tax through your Accounts Receivable module. If it is unchecked, you will not be tracking or calculating sales tax. You also have the option to track job cost retention receivables. This is only available if you are integrated with the job cost module. The bottom portion of the Main tab will show you the modules you are integrated with. Your options are General Ledger, Bank Reconciliation, and Job Cost, and again depends on which modules you have installed. The second tab is the Additional tab. The first portion is to choose whether your customers are open item or balance forward customers. You can choose to have them open item, balance forward, or have a mixture. When you choose Open Item, this means that when entering your cash receipts, you can apply the payment to a specific invoice, and the invoice detail remains in the system. If you choose Balance Forward, during period end processing, open invoice balances are converted to one balance. When entering cash receipts, the payment is applied to the total amount due for the customer, not to individual invoices. Invoice detail is not retained in the system. If you choose Mixed, this allows you to determine on a customer-by-customer basis in Customer Maintenance if they are balance forward or open item. You can set the number of days to retain paid invoices. The maximum number is 999 days. The next option is to retain temporary customers with paid invoices. What this means is that if you have customers that are marked as temporary in Customer Maintenance, if the checkbox is checked, and all of their invoices have been paid, you will retain them through period end processing. If the checkbox is cleared and your temporary customers do not have a balance due, the temporary customers will be purged at period end. The Aging section, Age Invoices By, your choices are Due Date and Invoice Date. The aging categories to be used can be either days or months. If you choose days, it defaults to 30, 60, 90, and 120 days for your aging categories. These can be manually overridden if you choose to have 30, 45, 60, or 90, or something different. If you choose months, it defaults to 1, 2, 3, and 4 months. This cannot be changed. The commission section on the additional tab will determine how commission is handled in Mass. If the salesperson commission reporting checkbox is unchecked, you will not be reporting commission through Mass. The second option is to allow commissions paid on paid invoices only. Check this checkbox if you would like to only calculate commissions paid on paid invoices only, or keep it unchecked if you do not. The calculation can be based on net invoice or gross profit. You also have the option to update commissions to other modules. The other modules that you can update the commissions to is Accounts Payable, General Ledger, and Payroll. The last section on the additional tab is how you want to handle finance charges. The computation method can be fixed, percent, or none. You would choose none if you do not want to calculate finance charges through Mass. If you select fixed, the next option is then to choose the aging category to calculate the finance charges on. Your options are current, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 coincide with your aging categories. So in this case, the aging category 1 would coincide to 30 days, number 2 to 60 days, 3 to 90 days, and 4 to 120 days. You can choose to exclude existing charges from the calculation. If you uncheck this, it will include existing finance charges in the finance charge calculation. As a default, you can set the standard charge amount. The next field, you can set a minimum balance to apply charges to. If you choose the computation method of percent, you will still set your aging category for the calculation, determine if you want to exclude existing charges from the calculation. You will set your standard charge rate, which will then be a percentage, opposed to a fixed rate, which we just discussed. You can still set your minimum balance to apply charges, and you can also set a minimum charge to apply. Next, we'll move on to the credit tab. The credit limit checking field determines if credit limit checking is performed and if the customer credit limit or aging balance is used to determine when the credit limit exceeded warning displays. If none is selected, you do not want to check the customer's credit limit when entering transactions. You would select the customer's credit limit only to have the system compare the customer's current open invoice balance to the customer's credit limit or a specified amount. If the open invoice balance exceeds the credit limit or amount defined, a warning will display. At the margin for customer's credit limit exceeded warning field, you can enter a credit limit margin. If a margin is entered, the customer's current open invoice balance is compared to their current limit. If the difference falls within the margin entered, the credit limit warning will display. In the credit limit checking field, if you choose aging category only, you will have the system compare the customer's aged invoice balance to the customer's credit limit or a specified amount you specify. If the aged invoice balance exceeds the credit limit or amount defined, the credit limit warning displays. At the aging category for credit limit exceeded warning field, you determine which aging categories are used when comparing to the customer's credit limit or specified amount. For example, if you select 90 plus days, the system calculates the total aging balance for all aging categories up to and including the 90 plus days aging category. At the aging category balance exceeds amount field, you can enter an amount to compare to the aged invoice balance calculated for the customer. If the amount exceeds the amount entered, the credit limit warning displays. The last option is to choose both at the credit limit checking field. You'd select this to have the system compare both the current open invoice balance and aged invoice balance to the customer's credit limit. You can define both a margin and determine the aging category to use if both is selected at the credit limit checking field. The system displays a warning if any of the conditions discussed for the aging category only and customer credit limit only options are met. The second portion on the Credit tab is automatically recalculate aging. Your options are never, always, or by number of days. If never is selected, the aging information is not recalculated before the credit limit is checked. If always is selected, the aging information is recalculated each time the system checks the customer's credit limit. If by number of days is selected, the system only recalculates the aging information if the number of days entered at the number of days to recalculate aging field is greater than the number of days since the last time the aging information was recalculated for a customer. On the Entry tab, we'll start with the batch processing. You can enable batch processing for invoice data entry and for cash receipts. This allows you to create batches of transactions for updating purposes. Batches can post one at a time, allowing different posting dates, or all together using the same posting date for all batches. The next automatic invoice number field will show you what the next invoice number will be in invoice data entry if you click the Next button. The next automatic deposit number will show you what the next deposit number will be in cash receipts when you click the Next number. If you choose to auto-increment your customer numbers, you can check that checkbox. When you're setting up brand new customers and you hit the Next Customer Number button, this will show you what the next customer number will be. On the right-hand side in the Cash Receipts Entry portion, you can set your default bank code. If you click the Lookup button, you can see in our demo company that we have 4 bank codes. I'll select bank code A to be the default bank code in cash receipts entry. Anytime I start a cash receipt, it will automatically default to this bank code set here, although you can change it during cash receipts entry. If the required deposit amount checkbox is checked, you are required to enter a total cash and credit card deposit amount in cash receipts entry. The deposit amounts are compared to the total cash and credit card transactions entered. If there is a difference, a warning message will display. You can clear the required deposit amount checkbox to have the system calculate the total deposit amount based on the transactions entered. If you would like to allow credit cards through your cash receipts entry, check this checkbox. You can also set the days before credit card expiration is due. Use the Printing tab to determine how journals print and if you are required to print invoices and statements. With the journals, you have the option to print sales and cash receipts journals by division if you are using divisions. This will break out the journals by division. The second option is to choose to do a page break on your cash receipts journal by deposit. So if you enter several deposits in your cash receipts, it will break out by deposit. If you are tracking sales tax, you can print the tax journal in detail, and you also have the option to print tax detail on the sales journal. If the print invoices or print statements checkboxes are cleared, you are not required to print invoices or statements. Regardless of the selection here, you can always print invoices and statements using the invoice printing and statement printing tasks. The last tab in Accounts Receivable Options is the History tab. You can choose to track customer changes by the following options. You can choose to track no changes, all changes, only deletions of customers, additions of customers, or customer changes. You can also choose to track the additions in detail. This will tell you the user as well as what was changed on the customer. The Cash Receipts History portion is where you set the number of years to retain your cash receipts history. The maximum number of years is 99 years. If this is set to 2 years, that will track the current year and 1 prior year. You have the option to retain deposit transaction history for all transactions, other types only, credit cards only, checks only, or do not retain any deposit transaction history at all. The invoice history portion, retain in detail, your options are yes, no, or summary. Select yes to have the ability to drill down to view invoice information, reprint invoices, and print detailed invoice reports. Select summary to retain information regarding the original invoice amount and payment terms. Detailed information such as items or services purchased are not retained. Select no if you do not want to retain detailed or summary invoice history. You can also choose to retain deleted invoices as well as retain comment lines in invoice history. The last portion on the History tab is the Sales History. You can select the number of years to retain customer history, and if you are tracking salesperson commission, you can also select the number of years to retain salesperson history. Again, the maximum is 99 years. If it is set to 2 years, it will track current year and 1 prior year. You can also include sales tax and freight in your sales history. And this ends our discussion regarding the accounts receivable options. Thank you again for joining me today. My name is Barb Adrian.